Let's welcome back to Straight Fire. He's the contest guy. He just dominates. Also, he's big in Survivor. But now we're in the playoffs, and it's the divisional round. Great game. So we're bringing in David Baker, the superstar gambler. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great. What a fun season, contests, Survivor, everything. And it's weird. It's hard to flip your mind onto just one game or
Yeah.
in this case, four games. It's a whole different thing when you're kind of forced to bet on each game or have opinions on each game, opposed to during the regular season. You can kind of, more seek out spots and
Yeah,
things like that.
exactly.
It's a
So
whole different game for sure.
it's almost, we'll get to it shortly. I'm just curious, how did you guys end up in the Westgate and Circa? I was a little over 500, I think 52%. Obviously didn't cash, but, kind of proud of some of the weeks. But how did you end up doing?
I think like I don't know, top. I didn't actually see the final results, but maybe like top 50 or 60 in Westgate, and then outside the money in Circa. They were both outside the money. But I'll be honest, once we get to where we're 500 through a few weeks or whatever, we do take different approaches. We do take more of a game theory
Oh, yeah.
approach. I would actually kind of like to do it one year where we just have a few that it's like all just about stat padding and things like that, and kind of see what you can do. But if you're down there, or let's say you have a 3-2 week on the first week of the quarter, or 4-1 week, it's hard to really take some of the freer
Yeah.
squares, with the line moves and things like that. And so I don't get artificially worried about like what the actual number is when I actually we play the contest to try to maximize the EV of each entry. So
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's jump in. First of all, how was your wild card weekend? I had just a monster, but it wasn't all straight up. It was a lot of teasers and parlays because the favorites, as they've been doing this season, crushed it. How did you end up doing?
not that great. I started off, my initial reads were right, but I don't know. I got talked off of both the Texans and the Commanders, which
Hmm.
was kind of sad for me. I was, I don't know if you remember our preseason pod, but I was, my prediction was Lions Texans.
That's yeah.
So I had Lions Texans in the Super Bowl. I bet overs on both of those teams. I was heavily invested in both those teams, and I just let the narrative of what the Texans look like kind of sway me off of them, and I'm kind of a little sad about that. And the Commanders, I don't know. I didn't necessarily get swayed onto the Bucks. I just didn't end up playing the game. But my initial thought was that was kind of a toss-up game, and 3 points kind of felt like, a good number there. But
Mhm.
overall, it was pretty good. I mean, it was fine. My biggest play was by far the Eagles. That was the one I had the most confidence
Yeah.
in. But I did kind of get worked last night. I believed in Sam Darnold. I believed in the
No.
Vikings. Yeah, I did. I have to say, I fell hook, line, and sinker for this team. Um, but I mean, more than anything, I was disappointed in Darnold, but I was mostly disappointed in O'Connell and to a lesser extent, Sean Payton in the Broncos games. I felt like both of these coaches really didn't give their team a chance to win.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed with Peyton and O'Connell going to not taking every opportunity early in the second half when they're down, a touchdown or two touchdowns to really kind of go for it.
Yeah. I
And
didn't see that.
I saw Sean Payton earlier this season against the Ravens. They lost 41-10, but I came out like really impressed with him and the team because early in the game they went for it on fourth down multiple times, and they ended up getting blown out because it didn't work. But then they stepped into this game plan versus the Bills, and they're down, um, 13-7. They come out, run, pass, run,
Yeah,
run,
I saw
pass.
that. Very conservative.
Yeah, so I was a little disappointed with that, and O'Connell kind of did a lot of that. Even though the play calls, he did run the ball more than I think he wanted to, but I
Mm.
think he kind of knew that, we have to try to just get something to free up Darnold. But just the lack of pace and the lack of effort of just trying to push the ball was a little disappointing. But look, I want to give props to the Rams. They were outstanding last night under obviously horrific circumstances with LA and everything going on and moving the game and all that. That defense, whew, very, very impressive.
Oh yeah, I mean they've grown up a lot. Last time we saw them, I guess they play a good opponent was the Bills. and they gave up like 42. And before that, the Eagles ran all over them. So I can understand some of the Vikings takes. We'll get to that game shortly. Let's start with Houston Chiefs. As we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon, the Chiefs are, this has kind of been pinging around. It was like 8.5, then it went down, I think, to 7.5, and now it's up to 9, I'm seeing. Um, I don't know, man. I can't make a case at all for the Texans. I guess their defense could make a fluke play, splash play here or there. I can't get out of my head, David, the 24-0 lead they had against the Chiefs. I'm sure you remember that at Arrowhead. It was
Yeah,
20.
that was with Watson. That was a whole different
That was
team.
with Watson, totally different. But they were up
Yeah.
24-0 on the Chiefs, and then they lose like 51-30 or something. So I'm sure some people are going to talk themselves into it, but Andy Reid, plenty of time to prepare. Chiefs getting healthy. I mean, this is this is the only full side I bet is Chiefs at 8. But I also love them in every teaser angle possible under 3.
Yeah, I mean the thing with me is it's really tough for me to want to lay 8 points on a total of 41. Um, you're basically your margin for error there is really tight. Also, you just have the Chiefs who just really don't traditionally um, go for it. They don't particularly gamble. They're not afraid to kick field goals. They're not afraid to, in the last 5 minutes when, Detroit may just try to, put that nail in the coffin touchdown. You know that Mahomes is going to just scramble around back there, get the first down, find Kelsey. Kelsey's going to go down. They're going to run the clock out, things like that. So there's a lot less margin for error. But I mean, I do see what you're saying. It is difficult to trust this Houston team that
Mhm.
has a real lack of playmakers outside of Nico, who probably is the best receiver left in the field. Obviously you can make a case for Puka or AJ Brown, but just in
What about
general,
Amon-Ra St. Brown? Scary Terry, but you're right. Nico
I
Collins,
mean,
I mean,
yeah, I
he's
mean
been good.
Nico's as good or not better than all of them, in my opinion. But the problem is the Chiefs, they are the best coach team, and Mahomes is, the smartest quarterback we've seen, outside
Yeah.
of Brady or since Brady or, over Brady, under Brady, however you want to put it, however you want to phrase it. He's very smart at game management. So, um, yeah, I just don't really like the Chiefs in a blowout situation just because they don't have the playmakers. But on the flip side, I do get it. I do understand that this Texans offensive line is extremely flawed, and Chris Jones putting
Oh gosh,
pressure
yeah.
on CJ Stroud, um, is really something. I, I'm not sure if a light went on in CJ's head or not, but it felt like that first quarter against the Chargers, he was playing like he had played a lot of this year, which wasn't good. And as
Yeah.
soon as they didn't call that intentional
Oh
grounding on the
gosh, I'm
safety,
so pissed. Yeah.
and they fumbled the next snap, and he picked it up and he ran around and he threw it. It's almost kind of like he was unleashed, and he was kind of
Mm.
like, you know what? If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go down swinging. And it just kind of like a light turned. This is a very dangerous spot for underdogs. So I definitely see your take on the Chiefs, and I had a long talk with my partner who I do the contest with last night, and he was all in with you on the Chiefs. I can't get there just because I don't really like laying more than a
Mm.
touchdown with this Chiefs team. I
Fair.
don't like laying more than a touchdown versus a good defense, and I don't like laying more than a touchdown when your best weapons are you know Xavier Worthy, who can't trust to catch a big ball.
Yeah.
Hopkins, who I can trust to catch big balls, but he's not really a separator. Hollywood Brown, he can catch balls and he can separate, but I mean, he really is still coming off of an injury. So I don't know. I just don't really trust them to put up a lot of points. I do think the Chiefs win this game, but I think it's somewhere in the you know 19-16 range or
Oh
something like
wow.
that.
Okay. What
So I
about
think
how
kind of
about
a low
this?
scoring game.
Could I interest you in a Texans first quarter? Chiefs basically sat their guys in week 18, then had a bye week. Maybe they come out sluggish. That's one angle maybe for the Texans. I haven't seen any props. I see a first half is KC -6. Um, nothing excites me about the Texans except their corners who played really well, but it was against Lad McConkey and some fifth-rate Chargers guys. Then again,
Well,
like you said, Chiefs don't have any scary guys.
the thing that I mean, it's all going to come down to can Will Anderson and this defensive line get pressure on Mahomes, and I think he can. the Chiefs offensive line has had a lot of issues this year. But
Oh
the
yeah.
thing with Mahomes is he gets out of it. Even when he gets pressure, like in these big moments, he seems to evade the rush and either find a guy or scramble. So there's a lot of variance there. Do they end up getting him down, or does he pull his Mahomes magic? I definitely would kind of lean, if I'm looking at props, towards Mahomes over rushing attempts and things, because I can really see the Texans getting pressure on them. I don't think they're going to be designed scrambles, but look, when the pressure is beating down on him, and we know that this offensive line is not that great for the Chiefs, Mahomes has had a propensity to escape and run in the
That's good.
playoffs. So I could see that being an angle. I do see that the Chiefs might be slow starters. We do know that they're quick finishers, though. So
Yes.
I do like your angle. If you do like if I like the Texans to maybe go at it from a first half angle.
Washington, Detroit. I'm pretty sure every casual gambler and probably a lot of guys who just enjoy money are going to have a Detroit KC teaser in their account. Now, both lines, Detroit's up to 9.5, KC at 9. My guess is a lot of that has to do with teasers. Because now you got a 7-point teaser has to get you under the 3. I like Jaden Daniels running against Detroit. That Detroit has given up a lot of yards to running quarterbacks because they play a lot of man. It's just tough. Third straight road game for Washington. We saw the Chargers wilt in the second half of a third straight road game, and Detroit kind of rested Montgomery coming back. My one caution on the big spread here is that both of these coaches are roll of the dice gamblers. And if Dan Campbell gets like, hey, we got this 4th and 1 from our own 38 in the first quarter, and there's a bobble snap, all of a sudden Washington, oh, okay, we got something here. I just worry about Washington's special teams. Their kicker, oh gosh, that guy's Zane Gonzalez that doesn't have any confidence. I'm sure you saw him pacing before the final kick, and then he hit the upright. So this is just teaser action for me, and I'll have a money line parlay with Chiefs, Lions, and then Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I think this game, the bigger spread doesn't scare me as much, just because I feel like there's a lot more variance on a 55-point spread and two guys who, it goes the other way too. As much as Dan Campbell is willing to go for it and put his team in position to end games and score, and thus maybe setting up good field position for the Commanders. Well, Dan Quinn has shown a propensity to go for it as well. He knows he's going to have to score almost every time they have the ball. So I could see this game getting out of hand from on the flip
Mm.
side too, because if they don't convert those, um, you're setting up short fields, and we know that the Lions can convert from anywhere, anytime. Um, I think there's just too many playmakers on the Lions. When I saw the line, I thought it was high, and then when I started diving into it, I mean, you really just have to find a way to limit McLaurin. I mean, De'Ami Brown had a nice game, and Zacchaeus has had a couple nice games. Eckler and Robinson are fine, but they're all middle tier skill position players, and to have to constantly be called on to score and have to score 30 points a game, you're not going up against this Tampa Bay pass defense. You're not going up against this Atlanta Falcons pass defense. I understand that the Lions have been susceptible, but they're starting to get guys back. Anzalone is a big return.
Yeah.
I think they might have found themselves a little bit in that Vikings game. As much as we want to say, was it the Vikings, was it the Lions that kind of broke the Vikings, or did we find the Lions? It might have been a little bit of both. I mean, the Lions might have broke the Vikings, and maybe the Vikings helped restore a little confidence there. I'm just going to trust that this Lions team is going to be able to score almost every time they have the ball. This Commanders team doesn't have depth, and they don't really have playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. The only reason that they stopped the Bucks really was turnover, and really just the Commanders holding the ball.
Yeah.
The lack of time of possession. I feel like the Bucks were kind of able to do what they wanted. So yeah, I think that the Lions just get it done. I mean, I can't get off this Lions train, but I do like your thought of finding a way to get this thing down to, below a field goal or whatnot. I'm going to put to some of my numbers to work and see if I think that there might be better value in just maybe betting the Lions just to win the NFC. trying to estimate what I think the chances are the Rams win that game, and also kind of seeing what I think the money line will be in the second round. Because if I really do think that the Lions are going to win this game, you can get a little bit over even money. I think plus 110 or around even money to win the NFC. So if we can get through this game, we're going to have a team that's probably going to be minus 160, minus 170 versus the Eagles, and probably minus 220 or something, maybe against the Rams, and you're going to have
Hmm.
them at even money. So that's kind of the way I might end up attacking it, but I have to go ahead and take a look and see really what I think that line's gonna be posted at.
Yeah, it's interesting. That Sunday game, Rams Eagles, I'm seeing Eagles 6. So it's not a huge spread. And what do you make of this, Dave? So Rams were displaced, had to go to Arizona. Then they got to fly back to LA. Not a bad flight. Then on a short week, because they played Monday, they've got to fly across the country to Philly. I'm seeing temperatures looks like it's going to be not freezing, but in the 30s. I I, I, I kind of like this Rams team fully formed with Kyron, Cup, Puka, and Stafford, and then the defense. And then revenges can be difficult. I mean, Eagles walked all over them. You think the Rams aren't going to be ready for the run? Um, I just don't know about that Rams secondary. If you come up on the line, they're just going to have AJ Brown 1-on-1, and he's a machine. That guy's a beast. So I'm struggling to find a path to victory for the Rams, but I keep coming back to this. McVay versus Sirianni, to me, is the biggest coaching differential this round.
Yeah, I mean it's probably the biggest coaching differential in the playoffs. I mean, who do you trust less than Sirianni, and who do you trust more than McVay, other than probably Andy Reid,
Andy
obviously.
Reid, yeah.
But yeah, this is a really tough game because I love the physicality of the Eagles. Um, and thought that offensive line is just
Oh,
beastly.
it's,
But do we trust Hurts? And that's the question that you kind of have to ask yourself, because the Rams are going to sell out to stop Barkley, I think. And is Barkley able to get off? And do you trust Hurts if he doesn't? Um, I like Hurts more than other people do. I think he's fine. But yeah, I really like what this Rams looks like. I mean, it's crazy because I really did like the Vikings so much, but now looking back on, they went to San Francisco when San Francisco needed a win. It was rainy, but they held them to single digits. Um, then they played the Jets. I don't think any of us really feel that highly about the Jets, but
mhm.
the offense did move a lot the end of the year, and they basically shut them down to under 10 points. They played Arizona team that was Kyler and had weapons, and they shut them to under 10 points. You had a Vikings team come in that was, one of the top five offenses in the league, and they shut them down to under 10 points. It's tough to lay 6 points in a game that, again, I don't particularly see a ton of scoring. I think Philly likes to limit possessions. They like to run the football. They like to keep the clock moving. They like to play pretty slow. And when you look at the Rams, they like to complete high percentage completions. So if you're limiting possessions and you have two teams that I think are good, and you have one team with a pretty excellent coach, I think his goal is to get to that fourth quarter in a one score game. So
Yeah.
I'm leaning at this point Rams.
On the money line?
No, no, no. With
Oh,
the
just with the
points,
points. Okay.
I don't think I really have a strong take at laying over 2-1 with the Eagles. Um, because, like you say, this is a really tough spot. You see a lot of times when teams go through tragedies or hardships, a lot of times that first game they can find everything that they have to put into it, but then having to rebound that second week.
Hmm.
I can remember this. I mean, there have been many instances. One that just always stuck with me was the Sean Taylor game. I don't know if you remember back when
Oh,
when he got killed and Washington had to play. I thought that was just a time. I don't know why that game just sticks with me, but they went out and they played like so hard for him in a spot where I didn't think they would ever have enough emotion to get through it. And I'm pretty sure they won that game. And then the next week, kind of fell a little flat, if I remember correctly. And you just see that a lot of times when teams have go through things that are tough. And I'm not comparing, a death to, a fire in the community, but it's just, you don't know what these guys are going through. You don't know how many of them had people affected, friends, family, themselves. So um, it is a very, very tough situation on a short week to go back and get motivated and kind of run through it all again against a very physical, dominant team in the Eagles.
Yeah, the kid Verse, the young kid out of FSU, looks so good. And everybody's all excited. He had the scoop and score. He's got to go up against Jordan Mailata, who is the number one graded left tackle in the league. I think he's all pro. I mean, that offensive line for the Eagles is just unbelievable. And I do ultimately think they kind of push the Rams around. Let me quickly ask you on AJ Brown, the whole reading the book thing. I haven't seen any interesting takes. I have one. I'm just curious your thoughts on AJ Brown reading a book on the sideline, or maybe you have none. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
I thought it looked very weird at the time. It definitely looked like, hey, I'm not needed here. I'll just sit here and read a book. I don't need to look at any film. I don't need to look at the iPad and
Yeah.
and anything because, you're not using me anyway. So what does it matter? Um, that was my initial take, but it looks like it's just something that he did that was kind of caught and weird, but I don't know, man. These wide receiver
Yep.
divas, they're another breed. The guy's super super talented, and if I was the Eagles, my first thing would be to try to get him involved early. I'm kind of surprised at the lack of use of AJ, but they have a clear vision. It seems like of working Saquon, working the clock, keeping the ball out of Jalen's hands. And I don't know if this is just a fundamental lack of trust that Sirianni and Kellen Moore have um, against Jalen Hurts or not. But yeah, I'm interested in your take on the whole book
Yeah.
reading.
So they've had some beef this season, Brown and Hurts, and there was the report. Remember was it the former was it I forget it was Brandon Graham. Somebody came out and was said on like a radio, yeah, they don't talk. They're not. We got to patch this up. Blah, but made it a big deal. My guess is AJ Brown went into that game knowing, hey, we're running the hell out of the football. You're not going to get many looks, and he brought the book out there as kind of an fu without being angry guy that hey, I got 3 targets, 1 catch. Are you kidding me? What am I doing? But instead of making a fuss, I'm just going to be reading on the sideline, like a silent protest, if you will. And I do think you're spot on. I will be looking at AJ Brown props this week. I think they're going to look to get him involved early. Like who needs that nonsense? um I think ultimately I'm probably on Eagles, but again, teaser's way better. If I could just tease them down to win, really, I love that. Now, last game is we saved the best for last, and so did the league. Baltimore at Buffalo. I got to be honest, Dave. I'm a little surprised. Baltimore is taking some money now. I think it's pinging around 1.5 pick 'em, so it's not like a huge swing. But any early lean in this one?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Honestly, I was shocked that the books opened Buffalo as favorite. I quickly thought that would get changed, that would flip, only because you know I don't know why, but just one thing I love to do is just constantly look at the futures and see what the books are telling you, what the markets are telling you. And Baltimore has continuously been favored over Buffalo in odds to win the AFC for weeks. So if Baltimore was going to be odds on favorite to beat, I mean, we're odds on favorite to win the AFC when you're comparing their price with Buffalo's price. That just tells me to me that the market feels that Baltimore is better than Buffalo.
Hmm.
Um, so that was kind of my thought, and it's kind of flipped to that. And I'll be honest, I think it's correct. I think
Really?
I
Huh.
think Baltimore is better than Buffalo. Buffalo is better when they have just a distinct edge at quarterback, and but they don't have the distinct edge at quarterback. Like the quarterbacks, you can kind of just, when I say throw them out, I don't mean throw them out because they're obviously the most important part in the game. But it's like, they're Buffalo's edge over every other team is just their quarterback is so much better. Well, it's not. And let's just look at the other players on the field. I trust the playmakers on Baltimore. I trust the coaching staff on Baltimore. Um, I I was not that impressed by Buffalo in their playoff game. That game was there for Denver, and we want a revisionist history look back at this game and just go, oh, it was a blowout. The Denver Broncos had a kick at the end of the first half to tie the football
I
game.
saw that. Yeah, yeah.
And then when they didn't get it and Buffalo goes down, it's 13-7. And Buffalo has the ball 4th and 1, and they go for it. And instead of running your quarterback and getting that first down and just getting the ball in the end zone, he drops back and he throws a pass to Ty Johnson that I don't know what the percentages were from next gen stats, but I'm sure the completion percentage on a throw like that to Ty Johnson was very, very small. If that ball, if his shin, ankle, anything
It was
touches out of
close.
bounds, it's 13-7, and Denver has the football. They threw the ball fine. Denver threw the ball fine, but that play just kind of turned it. And obviously that's what we're looking at, when you have Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, is the game can get flipped on one play. But I don't know. I just don't fully trust the playmakers on Buffalo, but I mean, I do trust Allen. I mean, he's insanely good. I've said that he's the best quarterback in the NFL. Lamar has won me over. I mean, I have to, you know, concede that I was wrong on Lamar at the beginning of his career. I've been
Hmm.
wrong on Lamar, for years. The man is insanely good at football. I know that a lot of people just want to call him a running back, a quarterback. The guy's not. He can throw the football, and in this NFL landscape, I trust him. I trust him. I think they learned a lot last year with their game plan versus the Chiefs, and
Oh,
I don't see Monken making the same mistakes. I feel like this Ravens team's on a mission. I feel like Buffalo is beatable in the middle of the field. Um, and I think that this Ravens defense has kind of found themselves a little bit the last quarter of the season. Um, I think it's going to be an outstanding game, and I'm not going to be shocked if Buffalo wins. But my lean is on Baltimore. I like their coaching staff better. I like their playmakers better. I trust their scheme more. I like their defense a little more, and I think that this is the
hmm.
Ravens' time. I think this is
Interesting.
Ravens win this game, and then they go in and they beat the Chiefs. That's been my thought from the beginning of the playoffs, and I'm not changing.
I think I agree with you that the public sentiment is, hey man, they didn't really put away Denver. Like Denver hung around the final score. They ultimately kind of sleptwalked in this much of this fourth quarter, but it was kind of there for Denver if they could make a play. Peyton was being coaching a little scared, I thought, or just nervous, not wanting to screw up. But my gut tells me that Baltimore first half on Saturday, where it was 21-0, and it was like 300 yards to 95 at the half or whatever the number was, 17 first downs to 2. It was laughable. I think everybody saw that and said this is Baltimore. Baltimore's here. They're a juggernaut. And I just looked it up. So in the earlier meeting when Baltimore killed them, three starters were out in the Buffalo defense, two linebackers and then Johnson. And Derrick Henry takes the first touch of the game or first handoff and goes 87 yards to the house. And it was like, oh boy. And Buffalo just couldn't catch up. I wonder, what do you think of this Buffalo defense? Because other than that Denver first drive, they didn't give up much, or was that Peyton's weak play calling?
Well, that was definitely Peyton's weak play calling.
Mm.
Bo made some good throws. He never gave them a chance. I've been a huge Bo Nix supporter. I've been a huge supporter of this Broncos, this team, and I was extremely disappointed at the game plan. The Broncos are terrible at running the football. The Bills are pretty good at stopping the run, and the Bills can be beat with the pass. Um, and I think that Peyton just kind of took the ball out of Bo's hands.
Does
So
the Zay
um,
Flowers injury do anything for, like, if he doesn't go? And I haven't seen a report if he's not, or either way, but if he doesn't go, does that hurt the pass game? And Buffalo, you think, just loads up and says, "Hey, we're not scared of Rashad Bateman. Go ahead.
I
We're going to load up on stop Derrick Henry."
I can't get the first meeting out of my head either. I was
Yeah,
on Buffalo,
I
and
think I was too.
I was dead wrong on that game. I don't mind Baltimore in 12 personnel with Likely and Andrews out there. Um, just everything is open for them. Andrews is a really good receiver. Likely is a very good receiver. Um, yeah, the wide receivers are not great. Bateman actually impressed me a lot this year. He's caught a lot more balls. He had the drops for a while, but
Yep.
he's holding on to the football. Just the threat of Lamar, Henry, Andrews, Likely. I mean, that's a physical game, and I know that Buffalo is missing some pieces, but I mean, that
Mm,
was complete domination.
yeah.
And look, this Baltimore team, they go up against Lamar Jackson every week. So, bringing down Josh Allen's not quite
That's a
the
good
same
point.
as it is to teams
Who?
that go up against. But I mean, it works the other way too. I mean,
Yeah.
Buffalo gets to see Josh Allen, and they've been prepping for him. So it's really kind of a great game just from. I mean, not kind. I mean, it is a great game, but
Yeah.
it's a very interesting game from the fact that a lot these teams do kind of mirror each other. They both have physical quarterbacks, physical running backs. Um, Not the best weapons on the outside. Good rush defenses, not the best pass defenses. Um, but I trust Harbaugh a little bit more than
McDermott.
I do
Yeah.
McDermott.
I don't love
But
McDermott.
but yeah,
I do. Oh, I do.
I
I'm sorry. I do have a little money on this. I teased Buffalo up from 1 to 7, in a teaser with Kansas City. Teased Kansas City down and
you're all
Buffalo up.
in
I
on
don't
the
think Buffalo gets
teasers.
blown out at home. Yeah. Oh, the teasers at -120. Oh, they're great through the key numbers. But final question, Dave, real quick. Who has a better chance to beat the Chiefs next week in Arrowhead, Baltimore or Buffalo, assuming who the winner gets out unscathed, no major injuries?
I mean, I would honestly just I think that I think they both have equal chance. I think
Oh,
it's kind of I think these two teams are really good. In my opinion, they're the two best teams in the AFC. Um, that being said, anybody who follows me at all on anything at all knows that I've perpetually been losing money betting against the Chiefs for years. So
same.
it's not really, earth-shattering info that I'm giving here that I don't really love the Chiefs. Um, I don't know. I mean, but I'm just going to go and say that whoever wins this game, I'm rooting for to win the AFC. I think
Yes.
as NFL watching nation and a big fan of the league, I'm ready to see some different games. I'm ready to see some different teams. Um, I hope that we will have a Lions Super Bowl versus the winner of the Baltimore
Yeah.
Buffalo game. To me,
New
that's
blood,
the
baby.
most, I think it's the most intriguing. It's the most interesting. And also, I just think it's just fun for just being able to win in different ways. You have a different type of coach in Detroit. You have a pocket passer in Detroit versus a scrambler in the AFC. If you get one of those two teams, um, you have teams that were built kind of through the draft versus through the line versus through skill positions. Just all the different ways that you can kind of build the team. Um, Bringing in ex players. Just I don't know. I think it's just fun. I'm kind of tired of the Andy Reid Mahomes thing, but
Same.
hey, they were all tired of Brady, and I loved Brady, so I can
Yeah.
understand the Mahomes love. But I'm just hoping for a better weekend of football, honestly, and I really just hope that all four teams that are down don't give up. I was very disappointed with kind of the level of quit that we had from some of these teams, and that's the one thing that I will say that's kind of concerning about with teases is in the playoffs. Kind of things have a tendency to snowball. So in the regular season, when teams take their foot off the gas, um, in the postseason, it really doesn't happen as much. So, if you're thinking about teasing some of these dogs up, I know you're looking the other way to tease some of the favorites down, but when you're looking to tease some of these dogs up, sometimes the games can kind of go sideways, as we saw in the wild card round. So.
Yeah. All right, David Baker, great stuff. Hopefully, gave out some winners here, and good luck this weekend. Obviously, Dave, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you and thanks for having me on. Always a big fan of yours and great job with all your work you're doing with Colin and Fox and all that stuff. So I guess next time we'll talk to you preseason next year.
All right, take it easy.